and welcome to Angelic Organics Learning Center Lodge. My name is Robb Benzel. I am one of the educators here. I'm also the chef at the kitchen, in the kitchen for the camps in the summertime, as well as I had some experience working on the farm back when I was growing up in the area. So this place has always been a part of my life, and I'm always happy to share with the people out there who love this place as well. Today we are going to be making garlic mustard pesto, which is, if you don't know, a wild edible, or some might call it an invasive species, and where they might be choking out a native species, and then you're turning them into food, or not compost, but anything else, right, that you might be able to create with greens. You can saute them or bake them into flatbread or whatever, make them into soups. But today we're going to be making a little pesto, which I just learned doing a little research. Pesto actually comes from the word pestle, similar roots, mortar and pestle, that they used to use to grind up the ingredients before they had food processors. But if you are making a large batch, if you're using, say, 4 or 5 cups of greens, then you could use a food processor. But today, for the sake of being outside at the lodge and enjoying the beautiful creek, we're going to use mortar and pestle. So, really quickly, I'll just go through the ingredients that we have. We have our greens, obviously. You could add in any other greens you wanted to, spinach or a basil or a parsley for something mild and kind of sweet to offset that bitterness. Or if you wanted to go really wild and use more wild edibles, that's an option as well. Just kind of like we said, it matters on your tastes, preferences, and how much bitter you like. The more wild edibles you use, the more bitter it will be. Unless you're really taking the time to find these baby shoots, which we did today, because this is something that you have the opportunity to do in the springtime, right? When they're small, later in the season, they'll all be like this, and you won't have as many options. But you can still cook them down and make them edible. So, really quickly, we are going to show you the ingredients. We have our greens. We have some seeds that we've already toasted. Sorry. These are hemp seeds, these are flax seeds, these are pumpkin seeds. There's also the option of using sunflower seeds, or if you are not a nut allergy person, you can use walnuts or pine nuts or anything you like. The original form of pesto is really just these herbs and the garlic and the cheese that they would have had, the aged cheeses that they were storing in their caves likely. But we are not using cheese today, so we're making a vegan wild edible pesto. The main part of that is going to be our lemon juice. That's going to bring a lot of flavor to the pesto that you might be missing without the cheese. Okay, so really quickly, we're just going to put a few of these seeds into this pestle here, or to this mortar here, and we are going to grind them up. I'm going to do this really carefully so I don't spill. And this is that mixture again of flax seeds, hemp seeds, and pumpkin seeds that I toasted for just a couple minutes. I did toast them individually because they are different sizes, so you'll want to toast seeds together of the same size, otherwise some might burn, some might not fully toast, etc., etc. But really quickly, if you've never used one of these, they're very simple and they're kind of fun. It's kind of a meditative practice that connects you to your food, right, in a way that's a little bit different from normal. And obviously, if you're making a large batch with multiple cups of ingredients, this might not be the biggest or the best size of tool to use, but sometimes this is what you have. So, I've just done it a little bit, not too much, because I do like some texture in the pesto. Obviously, if you like it really creamy, you can grind them really hard or put them through the food processor at a high speed and get it nice and soft. This is something that's going to continue being mashed up, so I'll just explain to you why I'm not fully crunching them all the way, because you're going to keep, as you are adding your ingredients, you're going to keep mashing, right? So I just added in a little oil, probably 2 tablespoons of oil to my, what did we start with here? Maybe a half a cup of seeds. total, right, combined between all the three different kinds. Now I'm gonna add in just about a tablespoon of lemon juice, probably. Because you don't want to go too much. You can always add more. Hard to take out powerful ingredients like lemon, salt, things that will really make you want to start over. So it's important to go slow when you're adding those ingredients that have a lot of flavor. So after you've got it sort of mashed up into a consistency that you like, and you'll notice that without any liquid in there, you can only smash it to a certain point. And once you start adding in your liquid, it starts to kind of gel together and become what you might think is a pesto. Now I'm going to take a little bit of our garlic here, and I know we're using garlic mustard, but it doesn't actually have a very, very strong garlic flavor. It's actually just sort of like a hint. So this is some garlic that I have in a garlic press, and it was actually just one clove that I started with earlier. Tap that out of there. Now, scoop this out of here and into a bowl that I'm going to mix it into. And I'm going to add in the greens, and we will be almost ready to go. That's how fast it is. But as with all things, you can add as much flavor as you like to them. Some people want to be able to taste those greens, those raw flavors. Some people want to mix it up and create something else. Okay, we found some garlic mustard out here in the trails behind the lodge. It is growing right at the base of this raspberry plant. You can kind of see it here. If you look far away, when you expand the view in the springtime, it'll be one of the first green things popping up. And you can also be able to see them when they're smaller in the springtime, so that you can get the baby ones instead of having to rely on the large ones. As with all wild edibles and invasive species that we turn into food, identification of the plants is super important, and if there are any kids watching, make sure that you are 100% sure and you've asked an adult about this wild edible plant that you may have found before you eat anything. That's always the rule, right, on the farm, is always be 100% sure. If you're not sure, don't eat it, right? Because you don't want any situation to arise while you're out in the woods. Granted, we're close enough to the house that it's not an issue, and we know this one well, that we can be safe in picking it. Another couple identifiers are these big, pick one out here, sorry, these big curly leaves, right? They look almost like a spade, but without the point. Some would say they look almost like a clover leaf, which I would agree with. But the other thing that you can remember is that they're also going to look a lot different later in the season, right? They'll be taller, they'll be up here almost, right? And they'll have those big flowers on them like we kind of showed earlier. So yeah, depending on what time of the year it is, there's always something around that you can eat in the forest. All right, so the one thing you will want to do when you're using wild edibles or invasive species that you've harvested is wash them. As much as we do like to talk about eating things from the land here, because it's something that is a really different experience that most people are used to at the grocery store, you never really know which animals have been out tromping around on the greens that you're harvesting. So for the most part, it's okay to nibble as you are foraging in the wild, but if you're making something in a large batch with lots and lots of greens that may or may not have some dirt on them, a little bit of dirt's okay, but you never know what might get introduced into your pesto that you don't want in there, a rock or a pebble or something like that you didn't see. So what I'm going to do here is I have my greens that are little baby ones, and if you notice, I actually have stems in there too, and when they're small like this, the stems are really, really kind of nice. They're juicy and not super aggressive flavors, not very bitter like they will be later when they are big stalks like this, right? Those big thick stalks get a lot more bitter. So what you're going to do here, if you had a food processor, you could just literally take these, throw them in the food processor. I'm just going to give them a quick chop with a knife, always being safe, right? I'm going to do them one way, kind of glossed over that too, but if you saw, I just kind of take them in a hand, keep them real tight, turn it a little bit, and then the same thing. Like this, because I don't want to destroy them, right? I just want them to be small enough that when you're eating it, it's not a giant leaf. So now I'm just going to give it a really quick chop just to get it kind of minced. If I was using that food processor, this would be done in one step. But like we said, we were trying to be in nature today. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. Because what I'm going to do right now here, I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it back into the pestle. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And we're going to use our little bit of oil, so another, that was probably a teaspoon of oil. Because right now all I'm doing is trying to make these greens able to move around in the pestle. Another half a teaspoon at the most of lemon juice. Because remember, a lot of that flavor is already in the seeds or in your nut mixture. So now I'm going to take this again, and this is not even so much to mix to blend it or anything, it's to release some of those flavors that are in there, in those greens. When you bruise greens, that changes the flavors a lot, and it a lot of times will take the bitterness out of them too. So I'm just going to give them a quick mash, and into my bowl. Same thing again. Stuff them in there. After you've ground up your greens again, you're gonna get them out of there, back into the bowl, into the bigger mixing bowl. And like I said, you can always, if you decide it's not mixed enough, it's not mashed enough, you can go back into your processor or into your mortar and pestle and give it a little more. So right now, we have our bowl. It looks like just greens, but remember underneath here is our seed mixture, our toasted seed mixture. And all I'm going to do now is slowly add in oil, just like you would in a food processor. If you had it spinning, you slowly add in your oil as you made it thicker to the consistency that you like. I know I like lemon, so I'm going to already preemptively add a little more lemon in there. That's going to be about, I'd say, 2 tablespoons total. This is going to bring our oil total to 3.5 tablespoons or so. But like I said, if you like it creamier, if you like it smoother, if you like it more chunky, it's up to you. So now it's at this stage, right? It just kind of looks like almost like the start of a chimichurri sauce or something, like a nice little green garnish on top of something. And what it's missing here is just a little more oil. So obviously, if you did have cheese or bigger nuts in there, like walnuts or the pine nuts, have a lot of oil content, and that's kind of why you think of pesto as being so creamy. When you remove those ingredients, you are going to have to substitute oil or lemon juice, or just really, eviscerating those greens and turning them into some kind of a juice that will allow you to create what you know of as pesto. So now I'm going to go a little bit more, actually, because this was about double as much greens as we made first time for our test batch. So now I would say we are at 2 tablespoons of lemon, and this is going to bring us up to 4 tablespoons of oil. And if you know me and you know my cooking style, recipes are not my thing, but they are important for guidelines and for keeping your ratios about right. That's kind of the way I operate with a lot of my recipes, is the ratio. So if you have a really strong ingredient, lemons, you know that has to be a certain ratio less than your balancing ingredient, which is your greens, right? So I would say this ratio would be 4 parts greens, 3 or 4 parts greens to 2 parts seeds to 1 part liquid, that's your lemon juice and your oil. And that's kind of a way to keep it simple and take the stress out of the cooking, where you are worried about, oh, do I have enough of this or enough of that, and you kind of just use what you have available. So for everybody's pesto, it's different out there, but right now we're gonna say this is our pesto, and I have some crackers that we made earlier. Just a simple flour cracker. There's only one way to find out if you made it right? Very good. Very good. Maybe a little more oil, a little more lemon. It's important to taste, partway through when you're creating something without a recipe like this, because you're not sure of the strength of certain ingredients. You might have grabbed a particular bunch of garlic mustard that's really strong and bitter, which is what I experienced when I tasted that. I could tell that the bitterness was a little bit higher than I wanted it to be in my ratio. So, as with anything, adjustments are always necessary. So for our final totals here, we'll be at 3 cups of greens, 5.5 tablespoons of oil, and about 3 tablespoons of lemon, which is actually kind of a higher number than I expected. But as with everything, expectations are always changing, right? And our lemon is going to offset that bitterness. That's the balancing flavor that you're substituting for the cheese. One last thing I realized we did forget to add in was the salt. Obviously, you don't need to add salt if you don't want it. Salt does bring out your other flavors, so it might help cover up bitterness as well. But if you are somebody who's sensitive to salt, by all means, you do not need to use it. So, with that being said, I'm pretty happy with our pesto. This is something that we will probably make at camp, definitely make at camp. And to eating outside and enjoying the outdoors and all that they have to offer. I hope to see you all at Angelic Organics Learning Center sometime soon. And if you are feeling like you are missing a part of the farm, you can always join us on these virtual videos here as we explore different parts of the farm and see our animals as they go into kidding and calving season. And as we get closer to the summertime and the vegetables start coming up, we will hopefully be bringing you more of these cooking experiences to kind of get everybody excited about being on the farm. So with that being said, cheers and salud, and hope to see you all next time. Thanks, y'all.